Hello and welcome back to The Hats We Wear. I'm Beth Itchafano, and today I have the pleasure of having as a guest Kaitie Entrikin. And Kaitie's going to talk about the different hats that she wears currently, and maybe some hats that she's taken off, and maybe some she wants to put on, and the joys and challenges that come with those hats, and how she's overcome them, the challenges, and navigated through them. So welcome, Kaitie. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So tell us right now about the hats that you're currently wearing. What are the different roles that you play in your life right now?
So I am a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a singer, and I just put on the new hat of entrepreneur.
Mm,
So I took off the hat of employee and put on the hat of entrepreneur. Two
nice.
completely different hats.
How so? How so? Talk about that a little bit. How is that employee hat different from the entrepreneur? And what made you switch hats? What made you take that employee hat off?
The employee world and the job where I was extremely stressful to the point where it was actually affecting my health because it was showing up in my body in the form of hair loss, weird skin rashes, heart palpitations, and at one point I was just like, this needs to stop, you know. Um and simultaneously I've been training to be a coach for the last few years, I would say. And so it was kind of like following the signs, like now's the time. You need to save
Yeah.
yourself, save your health, so that you can show up in all the other hats that I wear.
For the listeners, how were you able to pinpoint that it was your job that was causing the hair loss and every other symptom you had and not some other part of your life? How were you able to really target, well, this is my job that's causing this. I need to leave.
It felt like how do I explain it? So in the beginning with that job, it was very family oriented, and it was just comfortable there. Not comfortable in the sense like easy, but
Mhm.
just comfortable with the people that I was with. And at a certain point it started to change. I want to say it was 2020 when it changed, because that's when everything changes and
Yeah.
changed.
Hmm.
Um but at a certain point, I took on a leadership role there, and um, the pressures that were coming from the higher ups, where I felt like I wasn't doing a good enough job, even though I was completely changing the department that I was in. I did looking back, I did a lot of good things for that company and that department.
Hmm.
Um, but it wasn't recognized. And then the work piled on, and I was enrolled in a 1 week course that I actually took with you,
Hmm.
ECCP. And the week before that course, they came in and did layoffs, which I understand a lot of companies are having to do that right now. But they left me alone in my department, and that's when I checked out, because I had a crew of 3 other people that I ran, and they decided to have me do everything by myself, which I knew I couldn't. I knew it was physically and mentally impossible. And
Let
that's
me
when I checked
interject for
out.
1 sec, because this
Yeah.
is important for the listener, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, how did you respond to your employer? Were you like, hey, this, I can't do it all? Or did you take it on and say, okay, well, I got to suck it up and deal with it? How did you handle that part of it? Because I think that's really important to note.
Honestly, the person that made the decision, um, so the people that put it into play
Hmm.
begged the person that made the decision not to do that. So
Interesting.
they all had my back, and they knew that I couldn't do it by myself, but nobody could change their mind. So,
Mm.
um, and even when I was by myself, there was one person there that was fighting to have somebody else come back and help me out. And by the time that did happen, because they finally showed him, no, I can't do this by myself.
Hmm.
By the time that happened, I was done.
Hmm.
As And then I worked with my husband, and I was sitting at my desk one day and I was having an anxiety attack again. It was like became a normal thing to have anxiety attacks at work. Red flag.
Yeah. Red
And my
flag is
husband,
right. Yeah.
yeah, my husband pulled me outside and he said, if you need to give your notice, you should do it because clearly this is affecting your health. And that was that.
Yeah, because it sounds
So,
like the two hats that you had were in direct conflict. The hat of the job that you had and the hat of this new path that you were chasing as a coach.
mm-hmm.
Did that help you see like how detrimental it was?
It did because, in the coaching world, I guess people call it, what do they call it? Woo woo.
Yeah.
Like we tend to stay I want to say more grounded
Mhm.
just because we know how our brains work and how our emotions work, and not being able to express myself at work, I guess, was
Mm.
conflicting with me being a coach and wanting everyone to express themselves,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No, it does. Absolutely. So you had two hats that were definitely in conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And you found how
Yeah.
did you find the courage to take the leap and say, okay, I've had it, I'm doing it.
What's interesting is part of what I was hanging on to for so long was the income, because the income at my last job was really good, and I've been poor in the past, and so I was
Mhm.
terrified of being poor. So when my husband pulled me outside that same night, we went over our budget, and I went, "Oh yeah, we'll be fine."
We'll be fine.
We'll be
Yeah.
fine, because I one of the things I was worried about was money, and
Mhm.
we'll be fine. Like, and we looked at the budget as if I'm not going to make any money as a coach, which isn't true at all. So,
Mhm.
you know,
But that it made you
yeah.
feel even better knowing that, okay, I can relax into this and really lean in and that's important. I think so many people I did it too. I stayed in a job where I was not happy for 5
Mhm.
extra years because I was the one that was paying for the insurance and I was making a salary and it
Mhm.
terrified me to leave it for coaching. But I finally got to the point where you did, where I was just miserable and I was sick and it just wasn't working. So I think that's really important. I'm glad you shared that because anyone
Mhm.
listening, if you are miserable at work, there is a way out. You just have to find it. You have to be willing to take the leap and the courage and do it. And how do you feel now that you've taken that leap?
Oh, I feel great. The
Do
I
you
think
still have moments of fear though?
sometimes
Mm,
but I've gotten, the program I'm in has given me a lot of confidence in just my skills as a coach and like
mhm,
as a listener, because that's one of my main jobs, is to listen to people without the um without me trying to formulate what my next response is going to be. So um but I wanted to just rewind a little bit back to when my husband said we'll be fine and we looked at our budget. Like, I think the lesson there was sometimes all you need to do is just step back a few feet and take a look at it from the outside, because when we're stuck in that like panicky anxiety, I'm in this toxic environment, I don't know how to get out, like sometimes all we need to do is pause and back up a few feet and look at it from the outside and
mhm.
say, okay, where can I change things? So yeah.
And so looking forward, what other than that, learning that lesson, what other lessons do you think you took from that job? Because with every bad experience, there are lessons to be learned. What else do you feel like you took from that bad experience? Well, not bad experience, but the experience that troubled you and that was giving you problems. I know it wasn't bad the whole time, but what can you
Right.
share what lessons did you learn from it?
Um, well, I actually have thought about this, and that was my first management position. I've been a teacher, like teaching spin classes and stuff, where I'm in the front of the room and I'm telling people what to do, but this was my first management position where I'm running an entire department. So I learned so much on I feel like running a business, which kind of helped when I made the transition to entrepreneur, because now I feel more confident in my skills of how I'm going to run my own business. So I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, I can't look at all the bad things because there was a lot of good in that job.
Yeah.
I had that's where all my friends were.
Right, right. And that's what's important. That's what I wanted the listeners to understand is that through every hard experience, there's some nugget that you can pull from it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, wow, this showed me this. So I love that you have more confidence going into your own business now because of that leadership role that you took. So you're
Mm-hmm.
taking something, a bad situation, and turning it around and saying, oh, all right, wait, I'm going to bring this with me. Perfect. So what
Yeah,
other how is that entrepreneur hat? How is that feeling on your head right now?
it
Is it
feels really good.
cockeyed? Is it straight? Is it not quite on?
It's still a little wobbly, but yeah, it feels really good because I know, like, it's not going to be without stress and without sometimes lack of sleep maybe, but at least now I'm in the driver's seat and I create the stress, and I can deal with the stress in better ways because I'm creating it. And yeah, if I make a mistake, I don't have to report to anyone but me, you
Right.
know.
Right. And it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good that you're creating it. It was your
Mhm.
choice. I
Yeah.
you could say I chose this. So every stressor that comes with it, I chose this, but there's a greater purpose for it. So I feel the same way. It's like, all
Mhm.
right, bring it on. I know it's going to be hard. Bring it on. I'm choosing. I am in choice.
Yeah.
So that's a
Yeah.
very, very powerful thing. How do you
Yeah.
think you're going to, how old is your son?
He's 6.
He's 6.
Mhm.
What do you think you can share with him about this transition that you're making? Does he even he probably doesn't even realize what's going on, right? I know
He
he
does.
might on some level and energetically as well, because your energy, I'm sure, has shifted. What do you think he's going to take out of all this?
Um, I think the big lesson is you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he has noticed before, like, I had a goal of leaving. I wasn't going to be there forever.
Mm-hmm.
The original goal was a year from last April, and then it changed to January. And so we would talk about it. I said, okay, in January, I'll be able to take you to school sometimes and I'll pick you up every day. Because once they made the cuts at my job, I was no longer able to pick him up, which broke my heart. So
Mm-hmm.
now it's just my husband dropping him off and picking him up. I'm like, I don't want to miss that because I don't care if I have to sit in the pickup line for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
He when he gets to his cone,
Mm-hmm.
waiting for me to pick him up, he's like dancing and he's going, "Mommy, mommy's here. She's picking. Mommy's here." So, like, just to see that
Um,
every day through my window is
yeah.
amazing.
So
So
he's 6. So he's in first grade?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, that's exciting. Oh,
yeah.
so what other are there now talk about the parenting hat. Let's switch hats for a second. What are the joys and the struggles with the parenting hat, especially in conjunction with the other hats that you wear? Because now
Mm-hmm.
you've got a different hat you're wearing. What do you think are there going to be any not conflicts, but any like, ooh, I have to choose a hat right now? Do I do a podcast because I'm scheduled, or do I cancel it and reschedule because something came up with my son? So are you seeing any of those conflicts, or talk about maybe conflicts you've had in the past and how you've handled them where two hats were kind of at odds with each other?
I actually recently had one this Wednesday. I went to a workshop that was going on in Los Angeles, which is, I don't remember how far it is from here, but from my son's school, it was 33 miles. But
Okay.
anyway, um, and so the plan was to go to the workshop, and then afterwards, it was a friend of mine, our mutual friend.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we were gonna, like, probably go to lunch, go do other things. And my mom usually picks him up on Wednesdays because it's his early day, and then I have more time to do whatever work I need to do.
Mhm.
So she texts me the day before. She's like, "Well, I just tested positive for COVID." I'm like, "Ah, crap."
Oh.
So, but the ability to like immediately switch gears and make plan B,
Mhm.
I feel like it was easier as the entrepreneur than it would have been if I was at my job, because at my job, at least for me, asking for time off came with emotions. You
Mhm.
know, like, am I gonna lose my, are they gonna get mad at me?
Guilt,
What's
right?
gonna happen?
Mhm.
Guilt, yeah.
Mhm.
And the reality is, like, before I take care of anybody else, I need to take care of me first. So yeah, that's been super helpful. So I was able to switch gears, make a
Mhm.
plan B. I missed out on some things, but you know, I made it back in time to pick them up.
Mhm. And then that
Yeah.
gives you an opportunity to say, okay, let's plan this for a different day, and you get to see him again, you know?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, get to see those friends again. Um, just lost what I was gonna ask. It had to do with that. Shoot. Should have written it down. I was thinking as you said something, I'm thinking, oh, that's a good follow-up question. I don't remember what it is. It's old age brain that's kicking in right now. I have no idea where it went.
I
Um,
always just say I had a baby once.
exactly. I swear to God, it doesn't end. Mine's 20, almost 24, and it's still baby brain is still real. She took some of mine and hasn't
Never
given
gave
it
it
back.
back.
I never got it back. Oh my gosh. So what other lessons do you think that you can impart on that sweet little boy, um, other than being a great example for him? What else do you think he can learn from your example?
Um I two things are coming to me and they sound contradictory. It's never give up
Mhm.
and give up. Like
I don't think
some
they're contradictory at all, but do tell. What do you mean?
so never give up on what sets your heart on fire. Like if you have a huge dream of doing XYZ, do everything you can to do XYZ, but also know when to quit something else that's going to affect pursuing XYZ. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Yeah.
So never give up, but know when to give up other things in order to not give up the other thing.
It's kind of like knowing when to realize something is not serving you anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like this
Mhm.
doesn't feel right anymore. And that's what it is. It's I think figuring out, okay, I'm doing this one thing and it's not good for me anymore. It's not serving me. So it's time for me to leave. And I don't think giving up is necessarily a bad thing. It's
No.
choosing yourself, right? It's
Mhm.
choosing what's best for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that is what you need. That's always what you need to do is because if you're taking care of yourself, you're going to be taking care of him. You're going to be taking
Mhm.
care of your husband because you're going to be in a better space yourself to take care of those around you.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about the word? This is coming to mind. What do you think about the word selfish? How does that hit you?
Um
Do you think it's a bad thing or a good thing, or can it be both?
I think it can be both. I'm still in the mindset where I hear the word and there's a negative connotation to it, but I am learning that it's not always a bad thing
Hmm.
because like that whole analogy of filling up your cup first so that it overflows into everyone else's space rather than emptying yourself from the cup. If that, do you know which analogy I'm talking about?
Oh, yes, and
Yeah.
it's true because I think people, at least I know for me, my feeling with selfless and selfish were, oh, you should be selfless. You shouldn't
Mhm.
be selfish. But I think it's contradictory to what's best for us because people that are constantly giving to others at the detriment of themselves, that's harmful. And that's when you end up where you were losing your hair and you were sick and you weren't feeling well because you were giving to your job, giving to your job, giving to your job when it wasn't serving you anymore.
Yeah.
So when someone says, "Oh, that person's selfish," I kind of inside myself say, "Yay, go you," because you're
Yeah.
looking out for your own best interests. And I really feel like if I'm taking care of myself, then I'm better able to take care of my daughters, plural, my grandkids, my husband, my pets, everything, because I am in a better space.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what actually I remembered what the word was, what the question was, because you were talking something about self-care. I don't remember what it was, but how do you take care of yourself? What are your go-tos when you need downtime? Like, I just need to take care of myself. What do you do typically?
I like to go to the bar, and by go to the bar, I mean I use my barbell in my gym.
The other bar's not too bad either. Every once in a while, nothing wrong with that bar.
So yeah, can I cuss on this podcast?
Yeah, go for it.
Lifting heavy shit makes me happy.
Uh-huh.
I also have a punching bag in the
Yeah.
gym.
Uh-huh.
Um, but sometimes, so one thing that I did lack chronically for a very long time, and I'm still recovering, is sleep. And
Mm-hmm.
sleep affects everything else in your
Mm-hmm.
life. Everything. And so, right now, what I've been focusing on for self-care is catching up on my sleep. And I've had like almost 2 weeks in a row with 7 hours or more. So amazing. Um,
Because what was your norm before? If 7 hours is amazing, what were you averaging before?
I was averaging about 5 hours a night.
Oof, and to constantly work on
Yeah.
that. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's,
So I was actually having this conversation with somebody else, and the first thing I noticed um, is that I'm not constantly distracted by my exhaustion.
mhm.
Because when you're tired all the time or exhausted all the time and just wiped out, um, that's all I could think about, and it would affect my presence in the now. It would affect me being in the moment because all I could think was, I want to go to bed. I want to go to bed. I want to go to sleep. Um, and then when I think it was like 5 nights in a row of 7 hours of sleep, I was like, something's missing.
Yeah,
And it
you're not
was
you're
it was
not
that.
focused on what was missing. The lack of sleep was missing.
Yeah, the exhaustion is missing, and it
Oh,
feels good.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think sleep is highly, highly underestimated. I mean, you
Mhm.
can literally go crazy. That's the reason sleep deprivation is a form of torture, because it can make you go crazy, literally. Your brain
Yeah.
needs that time. The cells in your body need that time to rejuvenate.
Mhm.
And not allowing yourself that time is not good. I used to always be on my students, and I would ask, okay, how many of you are getting less than so and so many hours? And the hands that went up, I'm like, guys, you need to sleep, because you won't be able to think properly otherwise. It's gonna eventually catch up to you. They're young, they think that they're superpower, supermen, and
Yeah.
girls, but it's insane. So I love that you mentioned that. What other like quick things throughout the day? Because I'm actually going to make a video about this, about self-care. And I think people think that it needs to be like going to the spa. And
Oh.
that's a form of self-care, absolutely. So what little things do you do during the day when you're like, I just need to take care of myself for 5 minutes? What's
Mhm.
your 5 minute self-care? Because everyone can find 5 minutes in their day.
Yeah. I will grab a snack if I'm hungry.
Hmm.
But I like to so right now I noticed I've been sitting a lot
Hmm.
because I'm at my computer a lot. And sometimes I'll get up and I'll just go to the park that's next to my house and just walk,
Nice.
because I think walking is I go for the walk. It's good for my body, but it's mostly for my mind.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I used to do that when I had my job too. I would set my alarm and just go for a walk around the building and then
Hmm.
go plop myself back in my chair.
Yeah.
Um, but walking's really good for you mentally and physically.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, make sure I'm eating enough, drinking enough, moving enough. Um, and if I need to, I'll cancel something and I'll sit on my couch and I'll watch a TV show for an hour or something. I don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
I like to breathe, literally. I
Yeah.
think people don't know the amount of hours in the day that they are shallow breathing. Like, how often do you actually take a nice deep breath in where the air is getting to the bottom of your lungs, the
Mm,
very bottom of those lobes? It's not very often. Yeah, you're taking a deep breath in now. It's amazing how good it feels just to take a deep breath and
yeah.
how it clears the cobwebs out of your brain, getting that extra oxygen in and getting that carbon dioxide out from the bottom of your lungs.
Mm-hmm.
So to the listeners, it does not need to be a spa day, although I think we all love being pampered, but it can be literally going to the bath. If you have kids and they're screaming, go to the bathroom, lock the door, set a
Mm-hmm.
timer for 1 minute, and just sit there and breathe. Um,
Yeah.
because so many people say, "Oh, I can't. I don't have time for self-care." Everybody has time for self-care. You just have to figure out what it is you need. Do you need a
Yeah.
special cup of tea? Do you need to go out and stand by a tree and touch that tree? Do you need
Mm-hmm.
to talk to a friend? Do you need to watch TV? What do
Yeah.
find what fills you up and do
Mm-hmm.
it for the amount of time that you can do it. That's what I say.
Yeah. And it's different for everybody too.
It is.
I
Yeah.
do have one other thing that I do that's not for everybody. I have a season pass for Six Flags Magic Mountain, and I'll go there by myself and just ride all the big rides.
Oh, that sounds like heaven. Just go by yourself. No, that
Yeah.
sounds like heaven. Just to not
Yeah.
have anybody to answer to. You don't have to agree with anybody on what you want to do. You just go and you just be.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah.
How far away are you from Six Flags? Is that something
Um,
you can do
well,
easily, or is it a drive?
I used to work 7 minutes from Six Flags, but I live 43 miles. So, I mean, I'm used to the drive.
Yeah.
I'm actually going on Monday.
Are you? Good for
Yeah.
you. Oh, that's awesome. I haven't been to
Break
an
time.
amusement park in a long time. Oh my God, I don't even remember the last time
Do
I
it.
went to an amusement park. I'm getting old though, Katie. I don't the
No,
rides
you're
aren't what
not.
they used to be. And like my stomach does not do does not do well. If it's a regular roller coaster, I'm okay. But if it goes backwards, I'm gonna be sick the rest and it upside down, forget it. I'm sick for the rest of the day. I learned
Oh.
that when I was in my 20s. Literally, I was young and I was with my one of my boyfriends and at the time and we went on this ride. I think it was Great Adventure and it was a simple roller coaster. At that time they didn't have the ones that do the curlies and all that. It was literally it went down and then it went backwards. Didn't even go upside down. Going backwards, I swear I threw up as soon as I got off. I went and threw up. I was like nauseous for the rest of the day. I'm like, oh my, and I was in my 20s. So yeah, it's not pretty. But I do love going around and people watching.
Mm-hmm.
I like to just watch people and see and use my creativity. Oh, I wonder what their life is like. Oh, look at them with those two little kids. And you
Yeah.
know, so um, so what other hats do you have? Actually, what hat do you think you want to put on? Is there any that you're like, ooh, I'm kind of interested in this? Like you talked about being a singer. Is there any hat associated
Mm-hmm.
with that? Do you play any instruments? I remember seeing a lot
Um,
of guitars behind you when we were doing a coaching session. I meant to ask you about them.
those are my husband's.
Oh, there.
We're in a cover band together. And so we do mostly 80s rock,
Oh, I love.
some 90s, some 70s. Um, but that's like we have a show coming up in October for a private party.
Uh-huh.
But we don't do a lot of shows anymore. The band's been together for 8 years, I want to
Uh-huh.
say. Um, Both the other singer and I had a baby around the same time. She was like 5 months behind me.
Uh-huh.
And then after kids, we kind of
Yeah.
slowed way
Different.
down.
Yeah.
Um, but now with my new life, that's what I'm calling it, my new life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been wanting to get with my husband and write our own music.
Nice.
He actually has a few albums out already,
Oh,
and so I've just been wanting to play with that because with the job, it was work, and then my hobby is coaching, and then music is non-existent. So
mm,
now this is my work, coaching's my work, and then
mhm.
I want music to be the hobby part.
Nice.
So
So that
that's
has
the hat.
taken more of a precedence. I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm a girl of the 80s, so that was my high school and college days of the 80s. So
Nice.
yeah, so 80s music is 80s rock especially. You get some Def Leppard in there,
Mhm.
some Metallica and Bon Jovi, and I had a really lot of different, like the harder rock I liked, but the softer rock I also liked, and like the
Mhm.
Bon Jovis, and those were always like softer rock. It wasn't like Metallica and AC/DC, and
Yeah.
oh, I love that. I can see you. I can so see you in the front singing, rocking out. Oh my God.
Yes, and we dress in costume, which makes
Oh,
it
of course you
more
do.
fun.
Why would you not? I'm not surprised in the least. Oh, that's
So
amazing.
I literally put on a hat for that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So if people want to find you and they want to work with you, I know you have a podcast. Do you have a
Mhm.
website yet that people can, or an email or that people can contact you at? And
Um,
I'll put it in the show notes as well.
my website's under construction, but you can still go there and check out old articles that I wrote. It's beautifulbeastwithin.com. My main jam is Instagram, beautiful_beast_within. And I'm also on Facebook, Beautiful Beast Within. So yeah, and the
And
podcast is Unveiling the Beast.
so I was just going to ask the podcast Unveiling the
Yeah.
Beast. And what's the
Mm-hmm.
podcast about?
The podcast is just different people telling their stories, and the whole point is if one person hears somebody's story and learns something from it, or even hears something that might inspire them to change their whole life, then mission accomplished. It
Perfect.
just takes one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. I love it.
So there's no actual theme other than people telling their life stories.
Yeah, that's the theme. Tell your
Yeah.
stories to impact somebody. That's what
Yep.
it is. I love it. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for taking the time and being with me. I so, so, so appreciate you, and I love working with you.
I love working with you too. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. So, everybody, thank you for listening, and I'll catch you next time on The Hats We Wear.